Here's the February monthly recap on the Freeze Dry Business channel. What we're going to cover today is the videos that I posted and a little bit more insights on things that I didn't cover in those videos. I'll also make you more in the know of people that I've talked to this month about freeze drying that provide more future content for this channel so that you feel more informed and excited about what's to come. I'm also going to give you some things that I learned about my freeze dryer business, but also things that I tried in the freeze dryer that you could possibly try yourself. First is I posted about my visit to Harvest Right, the headquarters of the largest freeze dry manufacturer in the world. This was a great visit for me. I really had no idea how large this company was, which is massive. I got to see their entire warehouse of all the freeze dryers that are waiting to get sent out because a lot of their freeze dryers are already pre-purchased, so they're just trying to keep up with the demand. The HRC 100, which is their new commercial freeze dryer that I'm going to reveal and they are going to announce here at the end of March, I believe, is their release date. It's going to really revolutionize this whole commercial side of freeze drying. As someone who's in a commercial kitchen, I really am not wanting to expand how many freeze dryers I have. I'd really prefer to have a freeze dryer that has enough capacity to where I only have to run 1 or 2 cycles for a particular product and be able to fulfill all of my orders. And that's really what's going to change the game with this particular freeze dryer. I'm really excited about my video that I shot of all that footage about that freeze dryer that I'm going to share here at the end of this month as soon as they release it to the public. Now, the other thing that I got to see at the headquarters for Harvest Right is something that isn't even freeze dryer related, but does pertain to the freeze drying business side of things, which is a walk-in freezer. This freezer that I walked into was, I don't know, maybe about 100 square feet or so, but it was enough to even put multiple shelves in there where you could walk in, prepare a lot of product, have it pre-frozen at -30, even -40 degrees. And the advantage to that is you're going to be able to prepare a lot of product ahead of time, and then it's going to reduce the amount of time that it's in the freeze dryer doing the production, because as we know with the freeze dryers, it goes through a freezing process and the vacuum freezing, and then it goes to the drying. Well, now with -35 degrees, it's already really frozen. So therefore, when you're putting it in the freeze dryer, it's going to quickly get to that drying process and be able to kind of reduce the amount of time that it's in that cycle. So that's really cool. The second video that I posted this month was my 5th episode of my vlog, where you get the opportunity to follow me around in my own freeze drying business. And if you didn't take a look at that, I went to a winery called Indian Creek Winery. They had a Valentine's Day event. I got to host that with my wife. Got an opportunity to kind of see what a smaller event was like. A couple takeaways was that a small event isn't actually so much a bad thing. Actually, more people are going to visit your booth because you're the only ones there. So we actually saw pretty much everybody who attended that event visit our booth, and most of them bought. I had a really higher conversion rate of everyone that was there to buying actual products. So I made several $100s there, and it was kind of nice. It kind of paid for the trip out there, and it gave us an opportunity to have some date money. So that's an advantage for you if you're looking at doing small events, is go and make some money. Have some fun with it. Maybe it doesn't go just directly to your business operations, but provides a little bit more extra side income for you to go have some fun during your regular life. Now, the third video that I posted in February was about whether freeze drying is dead. Now, the reason I posted about this is because I saw a lot of comments, and there's a lot of commentary on different social media sites about whether there's too much market saturation. And I do believe that in terms of the candy side, yeah, most people aren't making the same amount of money that they were 2 years ago because more people have access to freeze-dried candy. Now people are a little bit more price conscious, and there's more people doing it. But I don't believe freeze drying is dead at all. In fact, I think it's actually at the very starting point of what's really going to make and shape a lot of the freeze drying space, not only for food preservation, but the creativity for people creating their own recipes. And speaking of recipes, I got sent a recipe for a strawberry cookie with a strawberry glaze. And what they did is they took freeze-dried strawberries, put it in the food processor, and made it into a powder, and then added it to the cookie dough, which wouldn't be available necessarily in the same type of texture and flavor than if it wasn't freeze-dried, right? So if you took a regular strawberry and tried to put it into a cookie dough, it might actually more make it of a fruit-filled cookie. But now with freeze drying, because you can crush it into powder because it's dried, you have the opportunity to make baking more flavorful using different types of fruit powders. That is the opening of the door for this whole entire industry, is getting more people creative. And my fourth video that I posted this month, if you hadn't taken a look, is my interview with Eric over at Two Guys in a Cooler. Eric's located in Panama. He's dealing with a lot of humidity down there, obviously, in Latin America. And so he has to have very much controlled environments for having AC units and dehumidifiers, and he has to move very quickly with packaging up his products. Also, since he's freeze drying pet food, you may want to note that pet food is actually regulated by the FDA in the United States. So you would have to have a commercial kitchen that is regulated by the FDA to be able to sell your pet food recipe. Now, I want to be very clear, the FDA regulates the sale of you being a food processor of pet food, but it quite possibly doesn't regulate you for doing it for other people. So maybe you can actually have your freeze dryers freeze dry pet food for other people, so they don't have to have that expense of going to these expensive pet food markets and therefore buying freeze-dried pet food. Now you can actually offer that as a service. Handling the freeze-drying process versus actually selling it is different, and maybe that opens up more doors for you. All right, people that I talked to in the freeze-drying industry this month that I think you'll really be interested to know is I talked to a new freeze drying manufacturer called Holland Science. Now, I had seen their name pop up on a Facebook comment from one of these Facebook groups about freeze drying. And so I reached out to them and I got to talk to the CEO of Holland Science. It was a really fascinating conversation, and I'm gonna bring that interview once I have it with him to this channel as a part of the Frozen Assets podcast series. Somebody else that I talked to is, if you're not following this person right now, you should. It's Trendy Treats. We've got some really exciting content that's gonna be coming out here in a couple months together. And I'm excited to share that interview and my discussion with him about how he's been growing Trendy Treats from wholesale to distribution to being really that brand for freeze-dried candy. And of course, if you followed his TikTok or his YouTube channel, he has a lot of fun TikToks and videos that he's really expanded his brand through social media. Another person I talked to in the YouTube space that's focused on freeze drying is Donald from Donald's Freeze Dryer Group. Now, his YouTube channel has been very focused on the more of the mechanics and the operations of the freeze dryers. And I'm excited to eventually talk to him about his experience with all these different freeze dryers, because he's taken them apart and then he's put them together. He's done a lot of testing. He even has his own parts and components that he sells through his website. And I'm going to bring that to you in the future about what his whole YouTube channel is all about, what he's been experiencing with these freeze dryers and what he recommends, and also maybe even some just basic fixes that you can learn to do that he knows is valuable for you to know about to run your freeze drying business in case your freeze dryer shuts down. All right, the last person that I talked to in the freeze drying space is not really necessarily freeze drying specific, but I talked to the organizers for Pet Food Forum. And if you haven't looked that up, it's more of a media type of focused B2B expo where it brings together all of the pet food industry leaders and companies in that space. And one of the fastest growing areas in that is obviously freeze-dried pet food. And I'm gonna try to make it to their expo at the end of April so that I can bring you more and more content about the freeze-dried pet food space. But really interesting. I'm really excited to start going to more live events so I can bring forth that content and you can be more in the know about more things in the industry beyond just freeze-dried candy and things like that. Now, the last thing I want to tell you is about something I tried in my freeze dryer. I tried freeze drying a milkshake. And what I did with the milkshake is I made a regular vanilla milkshake, and then I poured the milkshake in the Harvest Right silicone molds, those little cubes, which you can buy off of Harvest Right. I've got a link in the video description here if you want to go directly to there. And so I poured all the milkshake in those cubes, and then I pre-froze it, and then I put it into the freeze dryer. Man, it tasted like a milkshake. And then I tried reconstituting it with some water. Didn't really work out that well, didn't really taste that good, but it did taste like a milkshake. But I think what I'm going to do next is figure out what the necessary type of reconstitution of milk I should put into a glass, and then how many cubes I need to put back in there. But I am going to do a video on how to do that, and we're gonna have some fun with freeze-drying milkshakes. If you missed any of the videos that I posted this month in February, check out the video description below and you can watch those to its entirety. Otherwise, I'll see you on the next video.